What a show we have for you today. The one and only Taylor Lewan will be joining us. What are his thoughts on John Robinson, the whole situation? And I got a question to him about the Tooth Fairy. He's probably busy this morning. Hopefully he picks up the Zoom link that I sent him. Eric Weddle also drops by for his weekly visit. His Rams taking on the Raiders on Thursday Night Football, hours from now. Is Baker Mayfield getting the start? Also, can you tell that I'm lying about where I am right now? Up and Adam Show starts now.
Too strong to be defeated. My strength is within.
Taylor Lewan, the big fella, in for the touchdown.
And today I will win.
I miss him on the field. The Pro Bowl have tackled the driving force. That's right, Will. The driving force behind the hit podcast, Bussin' with the Boys. Please welcome my dear friend, Taylor Lewan. Taylor, hi.
Hi. Hey, happy to be here. Thanks for having me on the show. Beautiful setup, by the way, on the intro. Made me feel a whole lot better myself now that I'm on IR.
You have me. Oh, I know. We're going to get into that, even though I don't want to dwell on it because I know I can't imagine what recovery is like. You have me out here tap dancing. I'm tap dancing. I don't even know, like reading monologues, waiting for you to get on. I'm so excited to finally get to you, and sorry about the Zoom drama. But what I really think you were doing was being the Tooth Fairy, because you had quite a morning here with this debate last night. Let's take a look. Again, my daughter lost her first tooth. First tooth today, big discussion about the Tooth Fairy is going to bring her. I suggested a $1, the TFC, not so much. So I ask you, what is in fact the perfect amount, and what did you give a 5-year-old?
So level heads prevailed, obviously. I'm a big don't want to spoil my kids type of guy. All right, things have gone well in the NFL. Things have been outstanding, and I really do appreciate everything that I've been able to do with the Titans. However, my daughter's 5 years old. I don't know what she needs currency for right now. So for me, it was, hey, let's give her $1. And then the TFC, they came to me with torches and pitchforks saying, hey, $1 is too little. Right. She goes to school with that. She's going to be a laughing stock with the entire school. So, like, we talked about it. We went back and forth. First tooth, big tooth, it ended up being $10, but I put them in singles. So she's got a little stack. She's got a little stack.
She's got $10. I love that.
Yes.
I gotta teach her. It's Win, right? Not Willow. Willow's
Win Rebel Lewan.
like
Yes,
an
ma'am.
adult now. Oh my God!
Yeah.
I mean, I gotta teach her how to make one of those QR codes, and she can just leave it on the bedside, and you can just Venmo her like $100 next time for the next tooth. That's
$100 is a
insane.
lot of money now, Kay. Life's been good, but $100 for a 5-year-old? I don't know about that.
I don't know about that either, but I don't have kids, so I can say that kind of stuff. I'm just always the crazy Aunt Kay who just gives kids what they want. I'm not much of a college football gal, but I did some research. I talked to Ryan Shazier yesterday about this as well. So Michigan, Ohio State, opposite ends of that college football playoff situation, the bracket. So do you want to see Ohio State again in the national championship game?
I think as a fan now, just being an alumni of the University of Michigan, you got to look at the steps. What is the path of least resistance to the national championship title? Obviously, it's favorable going against TCU. They're 8-point favorites going into that game. That, to me, I mean, I'm not playing the game, so I can say whatever I want. I think that's a locked-up deal. Max Duggar is a stud. He willed his team to the Big 12 championship. Obviously, they came up short, but the guy is an absolute unit. Got the red hair, got the freckles on the body. He's living an absolute dream. Now, Georgia donkeyed the boys last year. I was in Ann Arbor a few weeks ago for the Nebraska-Michigan game, the annual Bussin' Bowl between me and Will. And they told me, listen, we weren't ready for Georgia. We didn't know. We got on the field with them, and they were just men amongst boys in that type of situation. So now, for me as a fan, I'm thinking, what is the best way for Michigan to win this national championship and come back and break the Big Ten, its dominance over the SEC finally? And I think the easiest way that is you play TCU, obviously, and then you go from there. Go right into Ohio State. We've obviously Ryan Day, for whatever reason, can't figure out the formula against Michigan. So I think this is one of those things. You go Michigan, Ohio State. Now, if I'm a player, if I'm playing for the University of Michigan, I want Georgia. After the embarrassing donkey stomp they put on us last year, you definitely want them in that national championship to get back at them for all the marbles.
Wow, you are. I mean, if you had to pick, like whenever you want to walk away from football, would you do college or NFL first? If you had to pick between which sort of set to sit on,
I don't know. I think
incredible
it's a good
analysis.
question. I enjoy both. I think from watching standpoint, like just sitting down, my TV's in front of me. you can't beat a Saturday afternoon. College football is so pure and it's so amazing. And when you play in the NFL for a long time, you stop looking at the game being played. You start looking at scheme, formations, defenses, what coaches are thinking, when they're using their timeouts correctly, what are they doing from a special team standpoint? Because that's one thing that Mike Vrabel does a fantastic job of. When he came in here 5-6 years ago, it was imperative to the entire team that you learn not only your job, the guys around you, but offense, defense, and special teams. We know the keys every single week. And so it's really turned me into watching the NFL as a job more than in just enjoying it watching college football. So good question. I'm not really sure. I don't know what I want to do after football. I do know that I got this beautiful mustache. I'm going to keep on riding until I can't.
Well, let's talk about football. I miss you on that field, big guy. I do. We haven't seen you since week 2, the ACL. Where exactly are you in your recovery?
So right now, Thursday morning, I am 9 weeks post-surgery on my ACL. And so for anybody who's at an ACL, at this point, it's one of those things where you're checking boxes. Do you get extension? Do you get flexion? You're starting to work, depends if you have a meniscus situation or it's just a isolated ACL tear. If you're an isolated ACL tear, you're going below 90 degrees. If you have a meniscus or something like that, the first 6 weeks, you can't be weight bearing on it. So for me, I had a lateral meniscus as well. And it's one of those things where you're slowly progressing and slowly starting moving farther and farther down the line. And I would say right now, compared to the last one that I had, I've only had one other surgery in my entire life besides that first ACL, and that was getting my tonsils out. But the second one has been a much smoother ride so far in the first 9 weeks. And I'm very grateful to the Tennessee Titans training staff and everything like that.
I'm so happy to hear it. Now, how about up here and in here?
Oh, buddy, listen, I think this is the tale of two surgeries for me in this situation. It's the best of times. It was the worst of times type of thing. So 2020, people like to disassociate football players from emotion a lot of times and just focus on the job and the job that you're supposed to do. For me, in 2020, things were going so well. My career was going on the path that I really wanted it to go on, and then it was abruptly changed in 2020. So there was a lot of emotional stuff I had to deal with, a lot of stuff to unpack, a lot of things that I needed to realize I had to water different parts of my life, not just the football part. And that was a very difficult thing for me to do. Now, what 2020 taught me is that you can't focus on things you can't control. And so now, 2 years later, being 31 years old, not knowing what the future holds for me, because anyone can look at salary cap and you can look at 2 ACLs in 3 years, and you can definitely pretty much write down what's going to happen this offseason with the Tennessee Titans. But for me, it's what can I control on a day-to-day basis? I have two beautiful little girls, a loving wife, and a great group of friends here that I can lean on at all times. So this emotionally for me has been a much easier transition with maybe worse things happening, which is a crazy deal. But it's kind of one of those things, like once you let go of control, life gets a whole lot easier. And that's the situation I'm in now.
Gosh.
And shout out to Taylon and Willow and Wynn for being there for you and grounding you. I can't imagine that it's easy, just the recovery itself, and then mentally. Do you think going through an injury or going through another injury, does it make the thought of returning and those 60 minutes on the field more precious to you, or does it make you think more about being a dad and what you want for your future?
That's a good question. I think the appreciation for getting on the field with 2021, obviously the way my season started, the way my football season started in 2021 was abysmal. And that was just when you play at a dominant level, and this is not for me to give myself flowers, but when you play the way I played for as long as I did, it's one of those things where, you knew it wasn't going to last forever type thing. And so now I'm put in this position. And there's a lot of things to think about. I know that there's going to be other teams that would like to have me on their team and work for them. But, I've said before, I love Nashville. I don't think with my personality, how I act, how I handle certain situations, I don't think there would have been another city that have taken me in the way Nashville did. So I need to really sit down with my family after this year and really figure out what is the plan for me. What am I going to do? And just go from there. But I'm not leaving anything out of the equation right now.
So are you thinking about retirement?
I don't know. I think I think everything's up in the air for me right now. I think the important thing is here's where I really have my conversation with myself internally is I have played this game for a long time. I remember playing in college, and I remember my first couple of years in the league and playing the way I did. And I've always said to myself, I'm not going to go and watch the demise of Taylor Lewan. I don't want to be that guy that ends up, he's still chasing the dream. He's been on 5 teams in 4 years. And there's guys that do that, and there's nothing against that. This is just how my brain is wired. And so I need to see how this recovery goes. And in my head, I'm like, okay, you can still be a dominant player in the NFL. You can still play, and you can stay healthy. Those are all the things that I really need to evaluate when I'm going through this process, or do you hang them up with still some tread left on the tires? And like I said, I have a phenomenal life. I have an incredible life. I do a podcast with my best friend. I have the most amazing wife in the world, the best kids. We live in an amazing city, so it's there's a lot to evaluate. I'm not making any decisions now, but it's just something that does come in your head when you're 31 years old playing this game.
You shouldn't make decisions now. I do just want to say it is very cool, not just because I like you and you're funny and you have a great podcast and you're a great personality. It is very important that you are talking about this while it's happening. And people don't do that. Players don't, for whatever reason. They don't want to. They don't want to face it themselves. They don't think anybody else is talking or thinking about it. And the fact that and you're not taking us on the ride with you. You didn't break news here just now, but the fact that you aren't making a decision, that you're mulling things over, that you found peace in something else with watering other parts of your life, it's just really important for younger players as you sit here at 31 to sort of see that as an example. I think it's really cool. And when this John Robinson news fell, I thought of you. I thought of you right away because I know that you're in this. What's going to happen? I have 1 year left. Do I restructure? Are they going to let me go? So when that happened, as you sit on it 24 hours later, how is that going to affect you?
I think right now, if you were to say what happens to Taylor Lewan with the Tennessee Titans after the season ends, you would likely assume that I'm released from the team probably February or March. That is something that, you play in this game long enough, you see how the dominoes fall. And like I said before, 2 ACLs in 3 years, it's kind of it's hard for people to wrap their minds around keeping me in the building. I've been fortunate to be a part of this team for 9 years and see 100% turnover of this team. That's something that I hold precious to myself, and I take a lot of pride in seeing being the longest tenured Titan here. But when I heard the news about John, you kind of when you're in this building, and I'm here from an IR standpoint. So I come in the building when the guys are in meetings, but it was a Tuesday, and usually that's your universal off day in the NFL. So you could feel something was going on. There seemed like a sense of urgency. There were meetings happening quickly. There were a bunch of stuff. And as a player who's been here, hey, someone probably was let go. For John Robinson, when he came in here, he had the number 1 overall pick in the 2016 draft. And a lot of people were saying, hey, Taylor Lewan needs to go to right tackle. We need to draft the left tackle, blah, 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 all that stuff. And I took that extremely personally. And the first conversation John and I had was John asked me, he's like, hey, what do you think about this number 1 overall pick? And I was like, well, what do you mean? He's like, well, what do you think about us taking a tackle? And I mentioned to him in that conversation, I looked him in the eyes and I said, hey, that's a lot of money to spend on a right tackle because I'm your left tackle. And since then, our relationship and how we have, you're with somebody for 8 years, or 7 years, you gain a special relationship with somebody, even with a GM who keeps things close to the vest, came from the New England Patriots, has that type of mentality, that Bill Belichick mentality where he has to keep a level of separation from the team. It's heartbreaking. He's got an amazing family. He's got a couple of great little girls, and they've been around this building for a long time. And I think people, although I think if the pulse in Nashville, from what I've gathered from other media members and stuff, it was time for John to go. But I think it's really important that people realize what John did for this franchise. We were in a dire state of irrelevance. We were a team that went 9-7. We did win a playoff game against the Kansas City Chiefs, but you could see that was our ceiling at that time. And John made a very difficult decision, firing Mike Mularkey and bringing in Mike Vrabel. Now, I will say, I hate complimenting Mike Vrabel. It's one of my least favorite things to do in this entire world. But he probably is the best coach in the NFL. Just from watching him, the way he handles team meetings, the way he has guys on the same page, the way he has guys ready in situational football. And that's the thing that really separates you. With obviously talent separates you a lot too. But if you're missing an AJ Brown, if you're missing your left tackle, if you're missing Roger Saffold, who went to the Buffalo Bills last year, you're missing some guys this year. And because of Vrabel's way of game planning, having situational awareness, and really maintaining the game from a head coach's standpoint, it's a huge reason for this team's success this year.
It's so true, and that is tied to John Robinson. So it's so acute of you to point that out. And I think the legacy of Mike Vrabel is more than Tennessee. It's attached to Belichick, who you mentioned, and he's really the only dude you can say has had success as an offshoot of the Bill Belichick tree, and he's doing it and how, and they're leading the division down there, even though Tannehill's running his ass off like a chicken with his head cut off because he misses you, Taylor. He misses you.
Yeah.
Do you watch those games? Do you watch those games like, oh my God, when he's out, like, oh, I hate it?
Yeah, I think from an ego standpoint, right, when you're out of something, like when you're on IR, you're watching the game with your leg propped up on a Sunday, and you think, man, if I was out there, he'd be fine, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, the reality is that the offensive line is an integral part of every single team, and it's a very overlooked part of any team because it's not a flashy position. We're basically glorified security guards, and you got great leadership with a guy like Ben Jones, who's missed a couple games this year, and him not being in there makes it difficult because he does an amazing job of keeping everybody on the same page. I think those guys can do a lot better. I think they know that, and they're working on that every single day. I know Dennis Daly, Aaron Brewer, Nate Davis, and then Nick Petit-Frere. They are working every single day tirelessly to get better at their craft. Now, sometimes you get put in situations like you did last week where you're losing by 3 touchdowns and you got to throw the ball over and over again. And there's going to be situations where, Tannehill's going to have to run for it a little bit. And so it's tough. When I look at it, I'm like, damn, if I was out there, X, Y, and Z would be happening and we wouldn't be, but the reality is when you're a left tackle, it's not like I'm going to go and change the game that much, more just add a little bit more security. So
Taylor, you're on some maybe, I've heard this from players like Saquon, though he's a little bit younger, that when you sit for a little bit or you're injured or take a moment, you sort of come to terms. Edelman said that, you become a little bit enlightened. I feel like you're really operating on a different plane since last time I talked to you.
Well, I appreciate that. I really feel like, I think enlightenment is a tough thing to say because I look at some of the things I do and there's no way I'm enlightened. There's no way at all. But I would say that there has been, when you're put in a position of adversity, there's 2 things you can do. You can crumble from the adversity, or you could figure out ways to push forward and move forward. And that's the only way to grow as a human being. So I am force feeding myself into some sort of wisdom or some sort of silver lining. And like I said before, I have a great cast of people that I can lean on and help me. So it's not just me. It's my being extremely lucky. All the things in my life that have happened, that I've done good or done bad, I don't know how I've deserved this group of friendship or this family that I have, but it makes it a whole lot easier.
Does Will Compton make it easier? Because that's where we have to get to right now. This podcast, Bustin' with the Boys, I do believe, everyone's copying off of you. That's what it is. You and Will decided to do this as active players, and now every locker room I look into, you got these guys. Do you feel that competition? How do you feel about the Kelsey brothers all of a sudden popping on the scene?
I think the New Heights podcast is incredible, and anybody who's listening to this needs to go check them out because Jason and Travis, they do a phenomenal job. There has never been one sense of competition or jealousy in this situation. If anything, there's a level of pride. When I was in 2018, right after the season, it was January 19, Will Compton came to me. We're sitting at a Chinese restaurant, and it's 2 a.m. So you can imagine that the minds weren't working the best way they possibly should. And he goes, hey, man, I want to do a podcast. I go, man, I don't know. No one's doing a podcast. What are you talking about? And he's like, we should do a podcast. It'll be awesome. It'll be X, Y, and Z. So I told him yes. 2 days later, I flew to California to start training. So I was out for 3 months, and he was just kind of waiting on me for a while. Finally came back, and, to have success in something other than football is extremely special because at a young age, everyone plays a sport. Everyone has a dream of playing in the NFL. And then once you realize you can achieve that dream, your identity and who you are as a person really turns into, I am a football player. That's what I do. I play for University of Michigan. Now I play for the Tennessee Titans or wherever you happen to play.
Yeah.
So for me, being able to have success from a podcast standpoint and people tuning in just to hear me and Will talk and with a guest, I think is one of the coolest things you can possibly have because people are not only enjoying us for what we can do on the field, but they're enjoying our personalities as well. And as far as everybody else coming and doing their podcast, I know the McCourty brothers did one for a little bit. I know a couple of guys, Cameron Jordan did one as well. And I think that's just cool. It's cool for us to say, hey, we were the first active NFL player podcast, but there's so many eyes and ears in this world for people to listen to. There's plenty to go around for everyone.
I know, and I'm so grateful to you because you have no reason to come on my show, but you do because you literally have your own platform, and most players do. So when a Mark Ingram or a Cam Jordan or Kelsey come on my show, I'm very grateful because that you guys took the media by in your own hands, and you did everything that you wanted to do with it, and you guys are killing it. What's the most rewarding moment for you when you do a podcast? You guys have done 180 or something crazy so far. So for me on a show, if I'm ahead of a story that's going to be all over the NFL, and I was the first one to say something, or if I get a moment out of a guest that makes a pop on the internet, I get excited. What's that moment of rewarding vibes for you?
I would say, there's a lot of things to gauge the level of success in a podcast. You can look at the numbers and say, oh, this podcast is doing well. We had Bert Kreischer on just a few months ago, and Bert, he's one of those guys, you just say 3 words to him and he talks for 20 minutes, and he's incredibly funny. He's humorous. He holds a room. His energy is incredible, and that's a great feeling. But what really is cool, and I really didn't expect out of this, is that there are people that will DM you and be like, hey man, life wasn't going well for me. Life was not going the direction I wanted to. And to be able to pop on you and Will for an hour, 2 hours at a time, it just feels like I'm hanging out with you, and I'm really enjoying, it helps me enjoy the world a little bit more, which by no means was that part of our foundational pieces when you're making charts and stuff of okay, this is what our podcast is going to do for people. Oh, really? It's hey, let's do a podcast and see if this whole thing works out. And to see people gain a level of positivity from life is it's incredible. You don't really understand the value you have being in a locker room and how other people view you until you're really out of it. And I'm not necessarily out of it, but I have had an opportunity to see it from a different angle, and that's being in this podcast. So it's an extremely rewarding thing to do. We had a great group of dudes too on the production, JP, Bloss, Garrett, Jackie, Mitchie. They all do a phenomenal job.
I love that you're giving them love. It sounds like it's therapeutic to you, but I tune in because I like to hear you and Will just kill each other at all times. And you guys you eviscerate each other on a regular basis. It's quite enjoyable. So that brings us to a little game called Throw 'em Under the Bus with Taylor Lewan. I'm going to ask you some questions, fill in the blanks. Bussin' with the Boys' dream guest would be who? Dream guest. Let's manifest.
Man. Okay, dream guest for me would be, obviously, you think about who's the king of podcasts. Joe Rogan is the king of podcasts. So I think Joe would be incredible. But I'll tell you one for me, and as a hero of mine, probably shouldn't have been a hero of mine growing up, is Johnny Knoxville. I think having Johnny Knoxville from Jackass would be incredible. I'm a huge fan of him. I love those guys.
That sounds pretty easy. Johnny Knoxville, get on the show. I love that. Okay, in an Oklahoma drill where you have the ball and Will is tackling, who wins the rep?
They say there's no bad questions, but I feel like this is close to one because Will would not stand a chance. If you're a white linebacker in the NFL, that's always a tough deal. And so we got the size, and we probably have the same amount of agility as Will. So when his knee's healthy, it's 10 out of 10. Will's not taking me down.
Ooh, I love it. Again, we were rooting for you to get healthy. All the positive vibes your way, Luan. Your biggest pet peeve or the thing that annoys you about Will truthfully the most?
I don't know if it annoys me, but this is just the first thing that came to my head. If you're having an intense conversation with Will Compton, he will start to lean in on you a little bit. And then as you're talking, he'll just open his mouth. And that's how he's digesting the information. His mouth is wide open. He just kind of stares in your eyes. He doesn't break eye contact at all. I don't think that's my biggest pet peeve, but it is something that I notice all the time. If someone's talking to him, that mouth is wide open. That is how he is just taking in information. I just think that's hilarious.
Well, if he didn't know it then, he knows it now. Who's the better bus driver between the two? You guys take that sucker on the road. Who's the actual better driver?
If we're talking about driving, driving vehicles, I think there's just one way to gauge this. Obviously, car accidents. I don't think I've been in one, knock on wood. Will hasn't been in one, I don't think. That's a dub. That's a dub for both of us. But I can drive stick. And I don't think Will can drive stick. So I'm going to say I am. And this really turns into a Taylor Lewan gassing himself segment, but I'm still enjoying it.
Who is Will's celebrity crush?
His celebrity crush. We actually just did this the other day. Who was it with? His first celebrity crush was Carmen Electra, but his
Obvi.
Now Who's the girl that was in Wolf of Wall Street, who also was in Suicide Squad?
Margot Robbie.
Margot Robbie. I think that is probably up there for a lot of people right now.
I would agree. Okay, and the go-to snack on the bus is what? What do you guys eat on there? What's the fridge loaded with outside of Budweiser?
Yeah, so, man, I don't know if there's like snacks. Usually if we're sponsored by somebody, they'll bring in snacks. We'll snack on that. But an iced almond milk latte is like something that is always at this damn bus. Every time Will comes in for a podcast, he brings in a tray of those things like a waiter. He's just bringing those boys in. So that is, I don't know if it counts as a snack, but that's definitely his deal.
In my head, jerky, right. More jerky, and like a beer was all that you guys would have.
It takes a lot to look this average, and so I feel like that's a good solid diet that you just gave out there.
You are the absolute best. Thank you for taking so much time, and we appreciate you. And keep us in your thoughts on the journey. Of course, we'll keep you in ours as you make the decisions and you sit in the driver's seat as much as you can, and also let things go that you can't control. I learned something here today, and I'm going to take something from this interview. Thank you, Taylor.
Well, I appreciate you, Kate. Anytime you want me on here, I'm more than willing and happy to do it. I love being a part of it.
I want to get on the bus,
buddy. Listen, we were going over guests yesterday. Who could come on? Who should come on? And a fan favorite is Kay Adams. A fan favorite. Producers, Willie, myself. We will get you on the bus this offseason.
I gotta score to settle with that Welcome to. We appreciate you, Taylor Lewan. Rest up and have a happy holiday. From Tooth Fairy to Santa Claus, Taylor Lewan, everybody. We'll be back. Oh, Eric Weddle. Oh, how about those Utes, though? Did I become a college football person this year? What's going on? Our next guest won a Super Bowl with the Rams to take on the Raiders tonight. He's a six-time Pro Bowler. Nobody packs a better school lunch. Our friend and super dad, Eric Weddle, here to answer a very important question as a guy with a lot of experience. Taylor Lewan was asking, how much should go to your kid from the Tooth Fairy on their very first missing tooth?
Oh, my gosh. I honestly can't remember what we did with our 4 kids, so... I think we did a lot, like $20 or $10.
Whoa!
For the first time, and then it was $1 from there on out. But yeah.
Yeah, the first one's a big one.
I think it may have went up each kid. But what a great interview with Taylor. He's been the best for so long. Comical, energetic. Always has great takes. Very thoughtful comments. So that was awesome to watch that.
What advice would you give him? I think he's in this spot where he sort of sees his mortality. The Titans are really likely to let him go. He knows that. And then he's really thinking, retire? Do I keep going? What am I doing with my body?
Yeah. He's in a tough spot in the sense of he knows what's coming. We all know that in a sense of, we get up there in age and you're coming off an injury, you're getting paid a lot of money. The reality is most likely going to get released, and we know that. And he respects the organization, and they're probably going to communicate that with him. And that's all you really want as a player. And it all comes down to is, do you still want it? Do you still want to go through the grind and want to be great and go through all that? And if you're not 100% committed to that, then you go in a different direction and move forward with that. So he'll know. If he's contemplating it right now, I'm pretty sure he's already leaning to the next step.
That's what they say, but at least he's got choices and a great podcast. Eric, you're wearing your Utes gear. I cannot tell you the last time I watched a college football game. I watched this one for you. I really did. They beat USC.
Thank you.
Pac-12 championship game. Yep. You were there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I was.
You were there away from your children, with your wife, enjoying it all. You went to the game, leaving the Rugrats behind. Did you enjoy Vegas? Did you Cirque du Soleil it up? What happened?
Yeah, we got in late Thursday night before the game. I did some gambling late with a couple buddies, and my agent flew in town. It's like my best friend. So we gambled all throughout the night till about 3-4 in the morning, and got up, got a massage with Chanel, got a workout in with her, which we rarely get to do, and just hung out with Utah fans the entire night, day, enjoyed the game, the atmosphere. Allegiant's got to be up there. Have you been to Allegiant Stadium? It's by far one of the top stadiums in the entire NFL / events. Like, it's intimate. It's all football. There's not a bad seat in that place. It gets super loud. Just a great night for the Utes, back-to-back champs, and it's always great to take out SC in the process and end their playoff hopes. They would have got drugged by Georgia, so we actually did them a favor for not going to the playoff, because that might have been a disaster for them and for our conference.
Always looking at some optimism. That's why we love you, Eric. And I mean, Raiders fans are going to love to hear that. I got to get out there soon. Let's talk about your Rams. They play tonight in a couple of hours.
Yes.
You know Matthew Stafford. He's on the IR. We're wishing him all the best. Of course, he's Super Bowl champion. Then they pick up and claim Baker Mayfield. There's reports that he's going to be active against the Raiders. And, no, I'm not kidding. And that he has a chance to start.
We'll be quick.
Let me ask you this. Not what if you're calling the shots, are you starting him tonight?
Listen, at the end of the day, what do you got to lose? And, they're going to come out and fight. The way they played last week, you saw some rhythm on offense. You saw some improvements, right? Some continuity. There's just so much turnover and change. But listen, if Baker is in there and he wants to run around and make some plays and try to give some life and try to score some points, why not? Like, let's give him a shot. Let him throw the ball around if he's did it in practice and showed. The only problem is, is if there's someone on offense when he gets in the huddle that can help him with the concept or the play, right? Like if the call's coming in and he's relaying that, and if he needs help understanding what everybody's doing, if someone can do that, he knows how to throw a comeback or an over or a scissors route or, double digs. Like, he knows to do that. He just needs to know who's doing it. Why not? Like, it's all about evaluation at this point and continue to fight, continue to grind, continue to lead as the head coach. And talking to Sean, like, his energy is high. He's still ready to compete. He's still ready to lead them. And, it's unfortunate for the older guys on that team, but the pride is there and they're going to continue to play and continue to fight. It's going to be a great game tonight. I think the Raiders pull it out because they're just the better team at the moment. And I'm looking forward to watching it.
Raiders get the win here. I wish we had more time with you. You had a short visit this week with us, but everybody deserves a bit of a bye week. So hopefully you enjoy that, and we will see. So Eric Weddle, Super Bowl champ with the Rams, saying that the Raiders will pull it out tonight. But keep your eyes on that game on Prime Video. Andrew Whitworth out there will be chopping it up with Baker Mayfield. Apparently, that's what we're doing in 2022. And Andrew Whitworth on the show tomorrow. Thank you so much to Eric Weddle and to Taylor Lewan. We'll see you guys tomorrow. Bye.